Impacting the Next Generation by Laura Humphrey. When looking at this information, it is easy to blame someone or state they are doing bad things. It is easy to judge the people in these situations, but as we look at this, let's keep in mind that the scientists are goodwill people who got into science to help the world. Although their actions have positive and negative consequences, they meant well. This also goes for the Native community. They mean well. They're living on what they know by experience, providing for their families, and doing right by their land. Being non-Native and raised in a science-driven society, it is easy to look at some of the Native traditions and their cultural significance as odd. The fact that the way they tend to look at the world is non-scientific and tends to lend itself to the reason that scientists do not want to look at many of these experiences and data as information and fact. An example of these traditional beliefs is the idea that their prey is making a conscious decision to give themselves to the hunter, as told to us by Eugene Hunn. The belief goes on to talk about all things having a spirit, the animals, the rocks, and even water. This means that everything has consciousness, intelligence, and will and memory. Although this helps the Native community appreciate what is given to them from a science perspective, it appears to be a fictional belief grounded on a story, not fact. Another example from Paul Nadasti also revolves around hunting. This specific belief, however, he calls hunting magic, and has to do with mysterious forces. The idea is that if the meat is not shared with others, the next hunt will be cursed, and your family will be harmed by scary forces. In fear of what might happen, the hunter gives the meat to his community. This is a great practice for taking care of community members, but is done out of fear rather than caring. Again, the science world sees this and fails to see the scientific significance behind it. One of the last examples that I wrote about in my paper that had to do with scientific community looking at a story being pushed as fact was Kenneth Pratt's article about the elusive Tengmiapax. The Tengmiapax, to the Native people, is a real-life giant bird. In these communities, the Tengmiapax is described in many ways with many attributes. But in every community, the Tengmiapax is a real creature seen by men. Then they share their experience as a story. Native tribes state they know where the creatures live, despite the fact that the author, Kenneth Pratt, was not able to locate them with the natives' help. This creature holds many similarities to the Bigfoot creature heard in many Western world stories. Having a creature in Native stories is one thing, but having a community believing in the existence of such a creature as one of their facts makes scientists question the validity of other data and facts. Scientists tend to specialize on specific topics. The goal is to become an expert in your field. They read and experience as much as they can on that specific subject. Although they know a lot in their information, they tend to not include the Native data in the scope of reasoning because of those examples we just saw of the Native people that make their world and their data look less scientific. The problem is that these scientists do not have life experience. They have not lived for generations watching the changes that take place. They're lacking data that to make these laws. Their lack in data is then used to make laws that affect the community that have been generationally involved. An example of this given to us by Jesse Ford is about whale hunting. Scientists tagged whales at a place they believed all whales to be at. Based on their calculations, whale populations had declined to between 2,000 to 3,000 left in existence. This led to laws that were to stop all whale hunting. In this case, the native communities kept stating that there was no way these numbers were correct, and that the scientists were not going to the correct spot to count whales. But scientists were determined that their numbers were the accurate numbers. We see something similar when looking at the geese population in Anne Fernup Riordan's articles. In this article, you see that native populations have been hunting and harvesting eggs for a long time. As scientists noticed geese populations dropping, they passed laws forbidding the collection of eggs and hunting of geese. Many times when scientists would move to correct something, they saw as an imbalance. The blame for this imbalance would come back to the native population. Looking back at our article about the decline of geese, we see that scientists are blaming the native people for killing so many geese and wiping out the population. This led to the native communities to feel so insulted in this situation. They came back at the scientists saying, as long as we have been hunting geese, we have respected them and never overhunted. As soon as scientists came, you have upset the geese with your presence, and now they are offended and refuse to nest. Anne Fernup Riordan says, because white men are keeping close eye on them, they are making the good population decrease. With the absence of information being adequately shared and appropriately used by scientists, we see situations where the native people become concerned and reach out to the scientists, stating things like fish were in short supply, then a shorter supply than they had seen in the past years. Jesse Ford speaks about how the native people started making complaints 2 decades before the National Research Council announced the problem and wanted to come up with a solution to fix it. In the end, science and the native community have a lot to learn from one another. We all desire to benefit our world for the next generation. And when we fail to work together, we end up missing the big picture. Although science does not necessarily agree with the traditional thinking of the natives on all subjects, we have to remember to approach pushing our scientific views because it does alter culture. One of my favorite quotes from this class is the one I would like to end on by Eugene Hun. Gosh darn. Sorry, guys. That was not supposed to be there. Each gene of the genome is a bit of information essential to the manifestation of the species in the life of each individual. Likewise, traditional Likewise, traditional environmental knowledge is a stock of ideas essential to expression of a culture in the lives of its constituent individuals. The extinction of a species has been linked to the burning of a library. Might we make the same claim with regards to the extinction of a way of life and the loss of a traditional environmental knowledge that ensues? Thank you for your time and patience with me in this class. I've been honored to learn with each and every one of you.